Beaufort County Commissioners have voted to build a new $30 million jail detention center, and they've chosen a spot to build it in Chakawinity. And there's a group of people that have been formed that really, really, really do not want this to happen and say that the process was flawed, and have even questioned whether or not Beaufort County has the authority to borrow that money. And here to talk about that is Keith Kidwell, who is a local businessman. You may recognize Keith if you're a 103.7 listener or Cable 7 viewer from his Emmy-winning TV show Tax Time that he does with his brother Proctor from the H&R Block offices, because Keith and Proctor own all the H&R Blocks in eastern North Carolina. How are you? Oh, almost all of them.
Wow, no, come on. We own Beaufort County, and my brother owns Ahoskie, Murfreesboro, Tarboro, Williamston.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more H&R Blocks than that.
I know. I was trying to pump you up.
Well, good.
How you doing this morning?
We're the smartest ones. Also the most humble. Doing great. Good to be here.
And then Keith came in and gave me his list of sports celebrities that he met. Read your list.
Read my list.
Here's the list.
I used to work for one of the big sneaker companies up north. Okay,
Yeah,
I was
right.
in the promo warehouse.
So
you've
met these guys.
Phil Sims, Mike Augustiniak, Daryl Dawkins, Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain, who is really huge. And if I tell you he's huge. Reggie Jackson, and most recently I had the honor of meeting the wonderful Terrence Copper. He's an awesome guy.
He's in Beaufort County's own.
Yeah, and actually the most friendly, the nicest guy out of all the ones I've ever met.
You never met Dominique Wilkins, who grew up in Beaufort County?
I did not.
I've met Dominique. It's interesting. I've met Reggie Jackson, too, but I wish I hadn't met him.
I'll ditto that. Well, except I did have him sign some autographs on some posters and things, and I got some good money out of those.
Well, good. I'm glad you got something out of it, because he used to come to the Michael Jordan train. He came 1 year, I think. He was awful. All right. Let's talk about this jail.
Okay.
What's the problem? Now, let me say this right up front. I'm the perfect guy to do this interview because I have no dog in the fight. I don't even this is amazing for me, but I don't even have an opinion of this because I've just followed it in the news like everybody else, and I know just enough to ask some inquisitive questions. I do not have an opinion, so we're going to get Keith's side of it today and his group, and then tomorrow morning we're going to have Al Clem, the vice chairman of the Beaufort County Commissioners, to say why they've moved forward as they have. So tell me what the problem with it is. The Beaufort County Jail is obviously an old, decrepit building, isn't it? It's been there forever. Why are you guys against having a new jail?
Well, it's actually been there since the early 70s, so it's not that old.
All right.
I've been down and toured the entire jail, down through the bowels of the jail, literally in amongst the plumbing and the wiring.
Right.
Walked right past the 2 cell blocks where they tell you it's so dangerous to walk, and I can tell you I was very comfortable there. None of the prisoners could touch me nor throw anything on me. According to the pro-jail people, they say, oh, well, it's a terrible situation for people to work in. Jails are dangerous, or that jail is dangerous. Henry, I think all jails are dangerous. Yeah. And I don't think this one any more so than any other jail.
Yeah. So is it your group's opinion that there should be no new jail, just keep the jail we have?
Well, at this point, the issue comes down to a very basic American values issue, and that is the North Carolina Constitution. North Carolina Constitution is very specific when you want to borrow money for a project like this. Article 5, Section 4, Paragraph 2 states very clearly that you must allow a referendum vote. Now, what they're going to tell you on the pro-jail side is, well, we don't have to allow a vote because we're not using general obligation bonds, okay? The general obligation bond, you pay back directly through your taxing authority. If you borrow money from any source and you're paying it back from the county, where's that money coming from? It's still coming from the taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you tell me you're not pledging the taxing authority of the local people? They want their vote. Most of the people, and I mean 85, 90% of the people I talk to in Beaufort County want their vote on this issue.
Now, we've had some issues here in Greenville about the way money is being used, taxpayer money, that kind of thing. And I know that there's what they call a local government commission.
Yes.
That you can contact now. Have they weighed in on this?
Oh, yes, they absolutely did. Let me back you up just one step, because first, the USDA weighed in on it, because me and several other of the sitting and campaigning commissioners have signed a letter to the USDA saying that when we're elected, when we're put into office in December, we will return all of their money. USDA said, look, there's been no referendum vote.
Well, let me stop you. What's the USDA got to do? This is the
USDA loans money.
Okay, and that's where the money's coming from?
Well, that's where they were trying to get it. They were
Right.
going to borrow from the USDA.
30 million?
USDA turned them down flat.
Okay.
Because they did not have a referendum vote. And that specifically stated that in the letter.
Right.
Yesterday at 1 o'clock, our county commissioners had a meeting with the LGC, the Local Government Commission. Local Government Commission told them, people, you're going to love this. I know most of you haven't heard it yet. They said, no, we will not do anything until after the election, until we seat the new commissioners, and we understand that they're going to pay the money back, and we understand that there's been a referendum vote. They're not going to allow Beaufort County to borrow money.
Okay, now, is the argument that it's too expensive, or is it is your major concern the way that the county commissioners have gone about the process?
All of the above.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's a constitutional issue on it. Second of all, we're in the worst economic times in our lives. I know I'm 53 years old, and I can tell you we've never seen anything this bad. Why would you want to turn around and raise somebody's taxes, go out on a project like this, when people simply don't have the money? How many folks have had a raise in the last 5 years? How many of you have had an increase in your homeowner's insurance, your flood insurance? You've had to buy wind and hail insurance. Your health insurance has gone through the roof. And our Beaufort County commissioners think this is the right time to raise taxes.
Yeah.
We question that logic. I've talked to the people that work at the jail. I've talked to people in every branch of the government over there, and every one of them tells me the same thing. We don't need one right now. We can use what we have for the next 5 to 10 years. Why is the rush? Why? These guys are headstrong, not listening to anybody, going out to build this jail.
What has been the response when there was a wave of discontent from the community and you folks went to the county commissioners? What was the response? And again, we're going to get their response tomorrow because Al's going to be here.
Most of the time, their response has been just dead silence.
Yeah.
I've spoken in front of them literally probably 20 times. I know many other people have. We've had meetings where 80% of the people that showed up for the meeting spoke against the jail. We literally had so many people turn out at 2 different meetings in Beaufort County that they couldn't fit them all in the building. Okay? So people are against this project. The commissioners just fail to see that. They keep going headlong against it. The only thing I've heard them say, not out on the record, and I'm sure that Mr. Clem will not state this tomorrow, is we will not put it to a vote because the people will vote it down. This is the attitude we get from Washington, D.C. We're not going to tolerate it in Washington, N.C. This idea of we've got a pen and a cell phone and we're going to use it, that doesn't fly.
So is it your position and the folks that you're involved with that there should be no new jail or just a less expensive jail?
Our position is that there should be no jail until we have had the referendum vote.
Right.
If the people of the county vote to build
so the point is,
do it.
you're saying put it to the voters, and if the voters want, if they can make the case to the voters, then fine. But otherwise, we shouldn't be spending $30 million or anything close to that of taxpayer money without going to the taxpayers.
Exactly right.
Right.
As required by the Constitution. As a matter of fact, in the Department of Justice, the National Institute for Corrections has a entire course of study that you go in and take as county commissioners on building a jail. The very first book in the very first chapter says the most important issue when you want to build a jail is getting the public on board. Done none of that.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I know when the Pitt County wanted to do the half-cent sales tax for public schools years ago, there was a committee formed and a long process of evaluating whether or not the taxpayers would go for it.
Right.
And I thought it was a textbook case of making the case to the taxpayers. Sure. And then, it passed overwhelmingly here.
Well, the last time.
Now Greenville's getting ready to float a bond for maybe some street repairs and parks and recs and stuff like that. I'm not so sure that's going to be such a slam dunk since the city council just came back and raised taxes before this.
Yes.
But that's what the referendum process is all about, is letting the people decide, right?
That's what the American process is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Referendum, I mean, it's very clear that it's supposed to be done. They're going to tell you, well, it's only a couple penny tax increase. Folks, in Beaufort County, if you raise taxes by 1 penny, that is a 1.8% tax increase. It will take 4 pennies, okay, or nearly an 8% tax increase to fund the jail based on their projections, okay? Now, that's assuming you come in on budget. How many government projects come in on budget, people? Not very many. I'm looking at the last one we did in Beaufort County, came in at over 25% above budget. Okay? Now they're saying $20 million. $20 million doesn't build what they want to build.
All right, let me play devil's advocate because no one, I wanted to have both sides on at one time so the debate could be done, but as you know, we couldn't make that work.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad to come back tomorrow.
So here's here's some of the things that I would think that would be brought out. So do you want to be a progressive county? Do you want to have an antiquated jail? Isn't it time to upgrade some of the facilities in Beaufort County?
Well, that would be true, Henry, if the jail were antiquated. As I said, I've toured the jail. Now, it's not the Hilton, but I don't think I want to put up our people in custody in the Hilton.
So who came up with the idea originally and why? If you're saying that the jail is this adequate, now we may hear differently from the county commissioner's side
you will.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, here's their main impetus of their argument, and that is it's out of code. How old's your house?
Oh, my house was built in the 80s.
It was built in the 80s.
Yeah.
Your house is out of code, Henry. Tear it down and build a new one.
That's true.
That's the logic they're using.
That's
Come
a
on.
good point.
Anything that's more than 10 years old, when it comes to a house, a building of any type, it's out of code. You can't use that as an excuse of why we need to build a new one. Here's my proof. That jail is absolutely adequate. Do you know how I know? The state's letting us put people in it.
Yeah.
North Carolina would not allow us, the North Carolina government, they inspect that thing on a regular basis. They wouldn't let you put prisoner number 1 in that facility if it was not up to their requirements.
Yeah.
Rest my case.
But will it be 5, 6, 7 years from now?
Absolutely. There's a thing about buildings. When you build them, they have to be up to that code.
Yeah.
Okay? As long as it stays in use and you do not renovate it beyond a certain percentage of value, which I believe is about 50%, you can continue to use that structure indefinitely. Now, to say it's not up to current code, everything out there is not up to current code. Your computer over there, you're going to have to replace that every Monday if you want to keep it up to code. Okay? You don't have to be up to the current codes with an existing structure. You only have to do it with a new structure.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there's the anti-side of why the jail should not be built in Beaufort County.